Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. This is Silent Partner and you're with me. I am Teach and you're watching the Bible, a Synopsis. So if you're new to the channel, this is episode 19 of the Bible Synopsis. Each week we do a synopsis of one book of the Bible, and today we are on the book of Esther. So if you have been with me from the beginning, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification button and you'll get new videos every time they pop up. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to dive straight into the book of Esther today. So grab your pens and your pads, and I'm going to start reading through my notes. And while I'm reading through my notes, you should be taking your own notes, and we should be learning together. Okay. All right, let's do this. You ready? You ready? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Right, so the book of Esther is found in the Old Testament, and it unfolds during the reign of King Xerxes. Some people call him King Ahasuerus, right? So he was around, if you know anything about history, if you're a history buff, you will know about the reign of the Persian Empire. And this was around about the time of the 5th century BC. So the book of Esther begins with this celebration and this lavish banquet hosted by King Xerxes, during which time he orders his queen, Queen Vashti, to appear before him and to display her beauty before his guests. And she said, no. Pretty much it, right? So anyway, when Queen Vashti refuses to come and to present herself, she's deposed and she's banished from his kingdom. End of story. Goodbye, Queen Vashti. So now there is no queen of Persia. So this massive search begins to find a new queen to replace Queen Vashti. Now, enter Esther. So Esther is a beautiful and intelligent Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. She is selected to join the king's harem, and later she is the one who is chosen to become Queen of Persia. However, Esther keeps her Jewish heritage a secret. So Mordecai is her cousin, and he holds a position at the king's gate. So later on, he uncovers a sinister plot to assassinate King Xerxes, and he informs Queen Esther. She then relays the information to the king, and the would-be assassins are apprehended. And Mordecai's loyalty is recorded in the king's chronicles. So enter Haman. Now, Haman is the king's advisor. Haman becomes infuriated with Mordecai's behavior as Mordecai refuses to bow to him. So Haman, as the king's advisor, believes that everybody should bow to him. When they see him, they should bow. If they're in the street, they should bow. And Mordecai says, I'm not going to bow. Like, I'm a Jew. We don't bow to anybody except God. And you, my friend, are not God. So Haman becomes so mad with Mordecai that he actually constructs gallows and prepares them for Mordecai to be executed on. Not only that, he then decides he's going to speak to the king. So he then speaks to the king, King Xerxes, and he gets the king to issue a decree calling for the extermination of all the Jews in the whole of the Persian Empire. This guy was upset. Anyway, upon hearing of this decree, Mordecai urges Esther to use her influence as queen to intervene. So Esther is hesitant, as she is aware that approaching the king uninvited could result in her death. And she knows that the king ain't playing, because she knows that she's just replaced Queen Vashti. So she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. So then there's this very famous passage in the book of Esther that goes like this. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the king who has not been called, he has but one law: put all to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, that he may live. Yet I myself have not been called to go to the king these 30 days. So they told Mordecai Esther's words. And Mordecai then told them to answer Esther, do not think in your heart that you will escape in the king's palace any more than any of the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? So, after Esther hears this, she then decides she's going to fast. So Esther then called a national fast. Herself, her maids, all the Jews in the province fasted. And after the fasting, she courageously decides to approach the king without being summoned, an act that could lead to her execution. Fortunately, King Xerxes welcomed her, and he offered her anything she desired. But instead of revealing her request immediately, Esther delayed her request and instead organizes a series of lavish banquets for the king, and guess for who? Haman. To build the suspense and intrigue. At a pivotal time during the second banquet, Esther reveals her true identity. Esther then pleads to the king for her life and asks the king to spare her life and the lives of all the Jewish people. She exposes Haman's plot to kill the Jews, asking the king for mercy. Haman then becomes very scared indeed. And he began to plead for his own life and started clutching at the queen. So when the king saw him clutching the queen, he became outraged. So he's now outraged by the news and by Haman's behavior. So the king's fury was so intense that he orders Haman to be executed on the very gallows that he himself had constructed and prepared for Mordecai. So, following Haman's demise, Esther and Mordecai collaborate and worked out a new decree that empowers Jewish people to defend themselves against their attackers. So on the planned day of extermination, the Jews successfully fended off their enemies, leading to a great victory. And this event is commemorated in the Jewish festival of Purim, which celebrates the survival of the Jewish people. Yeah? So, that's the book of Esther. The book powerfully illustrates divine providence. It also illustrates the importance of faith and courage and the need to stand against injustice, and the belief that one person can make a difference, especially in the face of overwhelming odds. The book also helps us to understand our own spiritual identity and our purpose, and recognize the unseen hand of God, the divine, and his divine influence in the course of our everyday interactions. So guys, God is always watching. He's always present. He always cares. He's always there. This has been the Book of Esther. Thank you for joining me.